Hello everyone, this is Emily Josephine, and I thought I'd give you an update on a previous video I did about the energy performance on our earth sheltered house. We recently, just like right after doing that video, we had a really cold, for this area, a very cold winter spell. And so I thought I'd let you know how it went once it really got cold and we had clouds for several days in a row. As you can see, I am recording this in our woods. You will hear cars going by on the highway behind me. So I also have an envelope where I've taken notes. I wrote down as things were happening so I would know what to say on this video. So here we go. Let's see. The day before, we had snow. Yes, we actually had snow this year. After 2 very mild winters, we had snow. So we had the heater at 800 watts. So we have a heater that is supposed to heat up to 300 square feet, and there are 2 settings, 800 watts and 1300 watts. So we had the heater at the 800 watt setting, alternating with the dehumidifier all day because it was very humid outside. Now the dehumidifier does warm up the house a little bit, so most of the time I can turn off the heater when the dehumidifier is running and the temperature doesn't drop in the house. It'll stay about the same. And it was pretty much all day solid. I had either the heater or the dehumidifier on. This was the day before it snowed. We turned it off at night. The low that night was in the 20s. We woke up in the morning and the temperature was still 68 degrees inside our earth sheltered house. Alright, so then that day it snowed. The high that day was below 30. Again, I just alternated having the heater on at 800 watts with turning the dehumidifier on once the humidity got up to about 62% in the house. That was the day it snowed, and remember the high was below 30 degrees. I need to throw this out here in case you're coming to this video cold. You may not know that we live in a very small earth sheltered house. It's 576 square feet inside. So you need to understand, first of all, the space heater we're using isn't supposed to heat up to 600 square feet, but it works for an earth sheltered house. The other thing you need to understand is we don't have a lot of thermal mass. The dirt it's buried with doesn't provide a whole lot of thermal mass, so that if our house was 3 times bigger, we may not have to run the heat at all. We would have to run a dehumidifier, though, to keep the humidity down because we live in a humid subtropical climate. Okay, so now that said, let's see. So the day it snowed, so sometimes the day that it snowed, I did turn the heater up to 1300 watts because it just started, wouldn't stay where we wanted, or it just started feeling really chilly. So I did turn it up a few times for a little while to 1300 watts. The low that night was 8 degrees, and that's about as cold as it will get here in the winter. During the winter, we always have the heater and the dehumidifier off at night. We turn on what we need to turn on in the mornings, okay? So again, it was off during the night. The low outside was 8 degrees. We woke up in the morning, 66 degrees inside, yes. Now, I did turn, I'm looking at my notes, I did turn the space heater on at 4 o'clock that morning, so it would be a little warmer when we got up. I got up to go to the bathroom, and the humidistat said it was 66 degrees, so I turned the space heater on at 1300 to warm it up a bit. It took about a half hour, and then it got up to about 68 degrees. And I say that a half hour, but the humidistat takes a little longer to register the actual temperature inside than a thermometer would. We have a thermometer outside, and we just use the humidistat for the thermometer inside. We don't worry about it. Alright, and then so at that point, when it got up to 68 degrees in the house, I turned the space heater down to 800 watts. Then, that day, the sun came out. Check this out, okay? The sun came out, and after the sun was, had been shining in the house in all its brilliance, it was probably between 9 and 10 o'clock, I was able to turn off the space heater and leave it off until probably about 3 in the afternoon, when the sun starts to wane and not be so strong in the house, starting to set in the west, right? and the temperature held steady in the house at 70 degrees with no space heater on. Now, we did have to run the dehumidifier once in a while because it was still fairly humid outside. I did not write down what the high that was that day. I think the high, well, it was in the 30s. It wasn't warmer than the 30s. Somewhere, you know, in the mid-30s was the high that day. And it stayed, excuse me, it stayed 70 degrees inside the house. Isn't that awesome? Because of the sun. All right. That night, the low was 14 degrees. Again, it was 66 degrees when we got up in the morning. And, yep, so there you go. Even though it's getting, you know, it got close to zero one night, and it was 14 degrees the next night, temperatures, you know, during the night, no heater, staying at around, you know, in the upper 60s. So that is my update. That's generally what we can expect. That's the pattern. And here in the south, it's kind of how it rolls in the winter. We'll have 3 or 4 days when it's really cold, and really cold down here in the south is high between 30 and 40. That's really cold. I mean, if the high is below 30, man, we're in the deep freezer, right? And I'm laughing because I'm a native of Minnesota. I know I've been in really, really deeply cold winters, right? And back in the 70s too, when it actually did get really, really cold in Minnesota. So I'm saying that, yeah, it'll get really cold for us in the south for 3 or 4 days, and then it'll slowly warm up, and then the high will be in upper 60s, lower 70s for 2-3 days, you know, and then a cold front will come in and we'll have some precipitation, and then temperature will dip down, and that's usually how it is in the winter. And in our house, I've noticed this, the pattern that, you know, if the sun is shining, even if it's cold outside, if the sun is shining that day, our south-facing side is, you know, as many windows as we could get, the temperature will stay between 70 and 72 all day without the heater being on. And no heater on at night, wake up to upper 60s, so we're happy, we like it. Our sheltered house is performing very nicely. Well, thanks a lot for watching this video. Feel free to share it, and thumbs up, and I will see you for the next video. In the meantime, help someone in need this week.